Welcome to RGN, the Regular Guy News. I am your host, your anchor, Dan Black, and I am a regular guy. Bop up. Hello, welcome back to the show, the RGN podcast, Regular Guy News, the least pretentious name in news, where we're coming at you with all the regular layman's question marks that you have out there. You're watching the news, you're watching the Taps, you're watching Breonna Keeler, you're watching the Ingrams, you're watching the Lemons.
Blitzies.
Yeah, the Maddows, and you're like, what are these people not saying? What are they talking about? Why are they assuming I knew everything? I know everything, that I am an oracle? No. What we're doing here is like, what are the questions that you really have? Having the conversations they're not having over there. We don't have any allegiances to anyone except for you, the listener. And before we talk about the podcast this week, got an exciting episode for you. Remember, give this podcast 5 stars in Apple Podcasts. We are Grassroots, Bernie Sanders style. Donate your stars to us on Apple Podcast, and do it. $27. And this podcast is word of mouth. So the best way to really support the show is to tell one other person about the show. In our last episode, I spoke to a Trump supporter. I reached across the aisle, and not just across the aisle. I also spoke to someone that I have is a stranger, but someone I have something in common with besides just being an American. He's a listener of my other professional wrestling podcast, and I was like, he said he's voting for Trump. I see his posts on Facebook that he's a Trump supporter, and I wanted to get into his mind, especially, and get out of my echo chamber, bust out of it. And not just like when you watch on the news and it's 2 surrogates, 2 pundits just yelling at each other to try to win for TV time. No, we're actually having a conversation. So check out the last episode called Dan Talks to a Trump Supporter. Today on the podcast, I will be following up post-presidential debate, which when we record this happened last night. The first presidential debate between Joe Biden and one Donald J. Trump. I'm discussing after that insane debate how this Trump supporter felt about Donald Trump's performance, Joe Biden's performance, and if he intends to continue to support him or maybe he was swayed some other way. So that'll be happening in this episode. But before we get into that, that'll be the main attraction of this episode. I'd like to go out to the field, actually, and introduce the one and the only RGN news correspondent somewhere on the field, Miss Erin Finnerty.
Dan, are you there?
Erin, are you there?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Dan?
I'm here. We hear you in studio loud and clear.
Dan, thank you. Thank you for having me, Dan. I'm
Erin?
coming to you live.
Where are you? We never know where you are.
I'm here today. I'm in my apartment in Los Angeles, California, approximately 1 mile from your apartment.
Oh, again, so you're back in your apartment. You've been there. Frankly, you've been there every single episode. I keep thinking you might be somewhere else in the world, but no, you're 1 mile away.
No, it's actually not safe to pull me out of this undisclosed location just yet.
Right. Okay.
So
all right.
I'm still embedded here.
You
in
still have
LA.
those tickets I got you to the Congo, right? You still have those?
I think they may have expired, but I might have gotten a credit for them. I'm not sure yet.
Okay, well, you'll use that credit. We have a lot of reporting we need to do there. This week, Erin,
Yes.
we're going to speak to Ross Crimaldi, Trump supporter. I'm going to follow up on him after the debate, but I wanted to discuss with you about the debate. But before I do, we have a way to discuss with us here. Listen, we're not like these news networks where they just got your Instagram handle scrolling across the bottom of the screen. I mean, literally, if you watch like a CNN or something, they got your Twitter handle scrolling on the bottom. The question is like, I'm coughing. Will I die of COVID? It just scrolls by. No one answers it. You know what I mean? Someone's like, right now, I'm stuck in a well. Someone help me. Scrolls by. It's gone. It's gone. No. We're answering your questions. Although you send us an email at regularguynews@gmail.com. That is the Regular Guy News mailbag address. Mm-hmm. And could it be more regular, the fact that it's a Gmail? I don't think that. Nothing gets more regular than a nice Gmail. Give it to the man. Google coming at you. Erin, What's
Dan.
going on with the mailbag this week?
Dan, we have had a record-breaking week in mailbag
Wow.
submissions.
Record-breaking week.
Record-breaking. And this is not an exaggeration. We have 10 items in the mailbag.
Wow.
Too many for one podcast, some
Well,
would argue.
as everyone knows, that our server can only handle 2 emails at a
I
time.
had to get a backup. I have an
Wow.
external server hard drive situation where I'm downloading these items to.
So you have your own private server? This is a controversy. This is a RGN controversy.
No, no, no.
But
Not gonna
her
let you.
emails.
Yes.
Okay. And
Not gonna get
okay.
caught in that trap.
Right. So we have 10 mailbag items this week.
Mhm.
We're going to push most of them to next week since we have a
Yeah.
special interview with a Trump supporter this week, this special week of the presidential debate. But we will get to all these mailbag items. There's some really good ones, but we will answer one before you and I discuss our thoughts about this debate.
Yes.
And don't worry, Aaron, what questions do we got? What's the
Well,
one question we're going to take?
the one question that we're going to take this week comes from listener Phil P.
Phil P.
Phil P writes, with Trump accusing Biden of using PEDs, I need to know, should presidential candidates be allowed to juice? Yes or no?
Wow. Well, I think this will just question a great mailbag item. Thanks,
Thank
Phil
you,
P.
Phil.
Absolutely, Phil P. Good question. Phil?
Someone you idolize.
That's
Someone
Phil
I
for
look
me.
up to.
Phil, this is going to bring us right into the debate. So let's just parlay this right in there. And that's a great question because it is interesting. Trump was accusing Biden a baseless Trump attack, saying that Biden was taking drugs, which was always what he does is to before his failures.
Right.
And by the way, not always failures, because he did this when he won the presidential election last time. But he tried to talk down. He goes, "It's rigged. The whole system's rigged." Right? He was going against it when
Right.
he does this
He plants the seeds.
temper his loss. Right?
Right.
He's trying to if he loses, it's not his fault. So this is what he did. Is like he was scared of this debate because he did 2 hours of prep. And less than 2 hours of prep.
Generous.
And Biden was working to prep really hard for like a week, and he was like, he talked down Biden's ability so much. He set the bar very low for Biden. This guy is incoherent, blah blah blah. And then he was like, oh well, actually, he's going to come out and do a fine job. So now he's going to say if he does okay, it's because he's on drugs. Which was completely baseless claim. And by the way, if you saw on Joe Biden's Instagram, which was pretty interesting, he was like, all right, I got my – because he also claimed Fox News was actually reporting this, is that Joe Biden was going to be wearing an earpiece and being fed his stuff the whole time,
Right.
which was not true. But then Joe Biden was like, all right, I got my PEDs and my earpiece. And it was his iPod, his like iPhone headphones and some ice cream. On his Instagram. Which was pretty funny. But the question is, can you take PEDs? I find this to be ironic that this comes up because of Trump, because I would bet all my money, gun to the head, Donald Trump was on Adderall last night.
100%. So Dan and I conferred about this during the debates, and he said, I think he's on a bunch of Adderall. And as I got that text, I was thinking, this is a man who has taken too much Adderall.
Yeah, the
chewed up the time
manic behavior
crystals.
and energy he had, and the color in his face,
and the sweat.
I think he was on. I really would gamble, gun to the head, that he was on something, and I would say it was probably Adderall or some other focus upper. The question is from Phil P, though, is that wrong? And I would say no. I don't care. I actually don't give a shit. I'll be honest. You guys know I'm not a huge Trump guy. But if Biden wanted to take some Adderall to get up there, I mean, he's got a speech impediment. So maybe it helps him. If there was some kind of medicine he could take that helps him. Like, listen, this is not baseball. right? This
Right.
is not like if they
They're
want
not
to take.
doing sports.
Right, absolutely. It's not like there's a drug you could take, like a limitless drug. You take it and it gives you some kind of
Yeah.
artificial intelligence
Knowledge.
or
Yeah.
something. Yeah, so no, I have no problem with that at all. These guys are in their 70s. I think being older, I think we're too ageist in this society. Yeah, there's some elements of your metabolism and your biology that are like dwindling at that age, but that doesn't mean you necessarily are slow. Jamie and I were talking to Jamie's grandfather, who's 97 years old, on FaceTime the other day. He's He's FaceTiming us. 97 years old, completely
Yeah.
there, telling me about movies I should check out. Telling me about old houses he bought and how much it costs and blah blah. It's like look, it's some people die at 30, some people live to 120. Like it's all
Right.
about the individual. But that being said, if you have a lot to offer society, right? Like a Trump or like a Trump or Biden, depending on who you choose or whatever, and you need a little boost to perform in front of tens of millions of people, that's fine. Now, Aaron, how do you feel about that? Or do you want
I
him clean?
feel
You want him clean?
I don't know. I guess I feel like if you don't, I think it would be better if you didn't need it. You know what I mean? Like, also, these are two men in their 70s.
Right.
Adderall is a stimulant, and like,
Mhm.
given Trump's physical state and both of their ages, I wouldn't really feel safe tooling around with amphetamines to perform at like a really high stakes
Right.
event like this. Trump is a heart attack waiting to happen. So
Right.
I don't know that that's wise, but you want to pump some oxygen in your bloodstream or get some mental clarity.
It doesn't bother me.
It shouldn't Trump using that as messaging to his followers shouldn't really be effective one way or the other, in particular because he's the one who clearly looked like he was on drugs.
Yeah, I mean, that's really the problem. The problem is more character than drugs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But interesting.
Yes.
I mean, listen, this is something that I don't care that much about, to be honest, not to be diminish Phil P's question, but I am saying, like, if enough of people, and we need more democracy, we need more uncontested democracy here. If everyone felt like, I don't want my president on drugs, they're like, oh, well, that's how everyone feels. That's fine.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I have a
and by the way, on
question.
drugs is not what I mean. I don't want your president on drugs. I mean, if they take a prescription drug to focus, you know what I mean, to stand up for 90 minutes and perform at that kind of level. Honestly, the one thing I would say to those guys is that I don't know anything. I'm not a doctor, but I would not take Adderall. I would not take that because the adrenaline of performing up there is stronger than any drug, you know?
Well, and and your heart at that age, like you shouldn't be tooling around with stimulants and the adrenaline rush from being in this high stakes event. But what if you had a candidate who was using steroids, like to like beef up? Would you be fine with that?
You know what? That is a little tricky, steroids, because steroids can mess with. From like the people I know who've been on steroids, they've set it. They're really mood altering, you know.
Yeah.
So I definitely would have a problem with that. Now, if you said someone took like some human growth hormone under doctor supervision, which is very possible that both of these guys are doing that, you know, because let's be honest, even Biden is pretty sprightly for his age, you know what I mean? So under doctor supervision, I think that might be okay. But honestly, I don't know a lot about these drugs. You know, a lot of billionaires take human growth hormone. I would be not surprised if Donald Trump did it. I would be a little surprised with Donald Trump because a lot of these, from my understanding, my very basic understanding of this stuff, like they benefit from exercise and so, like, you know what I mean? A lot of these performance drugs require performance.
You have to put in the work for them to be effective.
Like, I take creatine, and my, trainer's always like, yo, the reason you take that creatine is so that you get that extra rep, so get it. You know what I'm saying? So, like, it's like, if you're going to, like, eat a bunch of McDonald's and juice, it's kind of a weird look. I'm not sure how much you benefit from that.
Well, maybe you end up looking like Trump.
Yeah. So, I don't know. But I wouldn't be surprised if Biden did, especially because, they both have hair plugs and whatever. Okay. So, let's just get into the debate in general. Phil, great question. Lock it in. Let's just talk about the debate in general for a little bit. before we speak to the main event. Trump supporter Ross Crimaldi, a Florida voter. See if I can get through to this man. But look, I don't want to. I don't want to have the same conversation that every single podcast, every single network's having. Yes, it was crazy. The American people lost. We'll have some of that conversation and blah, blah, blah. I think the real interesting thing with this is, for me, the real question I have is, what's the real narrative for the viewer? Is everybody so as offended by bullying as they say? That's what I'm curious about. And I think, Aaron, I really want your perspective here because I think this election will be decided by women. And so I'm curious how women take this. And you are one of them.
I'm a woman. Yeah.
You are a woman. And so because I'll say this. Here's what I'll say. Two things. I'm a guy from New York. So me and Trump. He's from Queens, New York. I'm from Long Island, New York. Okay? Mm-hmm. His behavior, unfortunately for me, is extremely familiar, which is a connection I had with Ross when I was talking to him. And the way he argues is something that is very, very common with people I know. I have to work on not interrupting people, and I actively do. I'm improv trained, where I realize where literally you'll be on stage and you pay the price for steamrolling and not listening. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's a muscle I really worked on. I'm not saying I'm perfect at it. You listen to this podcast, I'm not perfect about it. I haven't let Aaron say anything, and frankly, I might not. But so there's a thing about Trump where I wonder how many people see what he does as winning, right? As passionate, as strength, and especially coming off the Hillary debates in 2016, where Hillary, I think, was a way stronger debater than Joe Biden. I mean, Hillary was, I thought, great. I mean, she kept her cool. She answered it all. She was really calm. I mean, she was like as disciplined as it gets, if you remember. Had great answers. And people I know still thought that Trump did okay. And I wonder if this shit is really effective subconsciously because of I'm a pro wrestling fan. Aaron's a pro wrestling fan. And somehow this is bleeding over. Trump is literally in the WWE Hall of Fame. And I can never help but understand, I can never help but question how much of that pageantry subconsciously we love, because it's like Aaron and I was texting before this happened, and we're like, you literally texted me like, this is like preparing for a big pay-per-view event. I literally made a coffee. I'm like, I got this has to be ready before I watch this. And you're like, this is like preparing for like an MMA. And like, there was times where I'd watch Trump and it was like, part of me was like, Biden, talk louder. Like, bark back. What are you doing? And my brain was like, I would smoke Trump up there because I would match his energy. And I'd be like, you want to go like that? You want to go? And I would repeat the same thing back at him. And the stuff that you can knock Trump on to take him down is so much stronger than his arguments against Biden. So I was like, if you play him at his own game, he cannot win. Like, he could not beat me. I would be like, 200,000 deaths. Where is the testing plan? I'll wait. Where is the testing plan? Fine. Talk about my son. We all know that's false. Look it up. Here's the website, which Hillary did. Hillary had a fact-checking website going simultaneously.
Right.
And I would be like, where is the testing plan? Where is it? How much money was allotted for testing? Where is testing? Why do we not have rapid testing? Look at South Korea. Look at these countries. Why do we not have that? I'm not going to answer it. Talk about my family all you want. Why do you not have that? See, that's what I would do. Now, I don't know. So that's why I'm posing this to you, Aaron. It's a really roundabout way. And I'm really asking you, how would you respond to that? Or did you walk away, which I don't like with the Democrats, because Democrats are known for choking, known for blowing it, is they're banking on people being grossed out by Trump as opposed to going on the offense, Cobra Kai style, right? The best defense is and actually matching his energy and beating him and looking strong. And I fucking can't help but think that that is the best strategy. That if Kamala was up there and she was the Biden, the candidate, or even if Bernie Sanders, who's also the same age, was up there, those guys would have had matched his energy and called him out way, way harder. And to me, there was a part of me that felt like Biden was a step behind, you know?
Because you want him to match the energy. And I see where you're coming from. And I also think that
Well,
there's
subconsciously, by the way, I
Yeah.
understand, and it's part of my conversation with Ross, and I didn't,
Yes.
and this is why it differentiates this part of the podcast and the next part, which you'll hear, and is that there, I'm just being honest that there's a primal wrestling part of me, and I think some people are not able to differentiate where I am. Maybe I'm more evolved to people. You heard about my
An
improv
evolved
training,
wrestling fan.
right? Where
Yes.
I can see, I can separate it and ultimately take a step back. And this requires reviewing it again, which I've watched a lot of the clips again and saying, wow, that was really wrong of him to pivot into his son like that, right? Like it was when he's talking about his son's who's a decorated soldier of this country, and this is the commander in chief, and he's pivoting into his other son's problems just
Drug
to win
problems,
a point,
yeah.
right? And it was low, and then to be like, you're not smart. Don't ever say you're smart with me. You graduated low in your class. You've done 47 years of service. You're like, you've done nothing in 47 years of service. Now, you want to bring up the 94 crime bill, that's fine. But just to say, blanket, you've done nothing, it's mean. So it takes reviewing. But I think to a primal part, people are like, that guy is passionate, he's strong, he's a leader. And I think there's enough people who will give into that. All right, Aaron, what do you think? I'm not saying
there
Trump's
enough
going to
people-
win.
Yeah.
I'm not saying Trump's going to
I
win.
think that there are people who do buy into that, but those people are already his followers. In my opinion, Biden's strategy for what he's trying to do is effective because yes, like you're a wrestling fan and like you're also from New York and like understand this type.
Hey.
But like people like me and my parents and folks from Michigan or these other kind of swing states that he's looking for are going, in my opinion, to be more receptive to the things that he did, which was play the Joe Biden hits, hit his points, refute the bullshit that Trump was saying, and appeal to the American people in like a calm presidential way, like the way you want the leader of the free world to act. You know, there are people who see Trump getting red in the face, spewing lies, which are fact checked immediately and shown to be wrong,
Right.
and still see that and think like,
But not
oh, there's
during
this
debate.
performance.
So this requires people to stick around watching the news.
You have to stick around and watch the news or read it later. You have to care about,
and you have to be on the right channel, frankly, you know?
right, or read the right article. But you also have to care about the facts, period. So it's like, yeah, like, so I guess there are the people who will react positively to Trump just regardless of what he says, being true, false, or not, like the passion or whatever you want to call it, where he gets like sweaty and red and like is bullying Biden. But
Right.
I do think what Biden needs to do is what he did, which is remain calm. We need a president who's going to remain calm in the next 4 years and then appeal to those people. And if you want to pivot it to women, as a woman, seeing a guy like Trump is disgusting. Like if you think about the way like your boss or a man in your life or someone you know, like no one wants to be talked to like that, and I find it disgusting, and I'm sure a lot of women, maybe some undecided voters, did too. So I think that, and someone like Biden, and also for me as a woman, Biden, you see his relationship with Dr. Jill. It's warm and beautiful and loving. And then you see his Trump's relationship with Melania, who hates his fucking guts, obviously, and won't even give him a hug on stage. Like, you know, there's a lot of factors I think as a woman you react to. And the way Trump spoke last night was just disgusting.
Okay. Well, that gives me a lot of comfort. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and I'm glad to hear it because I feel that way, but I also have this fucking shitty part of me. That
There
I'm
are
being
people who have
honest
that
about.
part, and that
Yeah.
part also governs their beliefs and their reactions, and maybe makes them feel like they don't have any need to read an article and see what was fact checked or whatever.
Right.
But hopefully there's a lot of more thoughtful people out there who recognize that, but realize that it's bullshit and that it is just kind of like, that's Trump's move. Like, he's going to yell at you until he's red in the face and make himself the loudest without actually saying anything at all.
Right. Well, I hope that's what I see, because what the stuff that frustrates me, and we know this. My Facebook is one of the least echo chambery Facebook groups, because I had a stand-up joke that went viral, and I accepted every friend request. A lot of them are from wrestling fans, and wrestling fans tend to be more right, and and my friend group tend to be more a bunch of coastal elites. So it's kind of mixed, and it is interesting because I feel like I see a lot of posts that are like, like this warped reality of like, we all like these two guys, why are they yelling at each other? We should hear stuff. And you're like, this was a one-sided situation. One guy was out of control. One guy was completely in control. Yeah. And at times had to stand up for himself and say, hey, can you shut up? And call somebody a clown when they're acting a clown. Like when I was out of control when I was a kid, and he reminded me of me when I was like, get detention as a kid, and I was out of control,
Or like when you're trying to negotiate yourself out of getting in trouble, like.
Right.
Yeah.
Like
that's that
like
feeling.
It's sad to me sometimes I can see Trump and then I could see my worst self in him. And that example is so scary to me for children, and it's like it's crazy to me that for like a little money or for this like kind of just to be like, I don't know, whatever, like a little I don't want to be demeaning to people's like views, but that like we can look for just to toe a party line, you can look past so many vile behaviors from this man. And everything I was ever taught, and I get into this with Ross, you'll hear it, everything I was ever taught is that like we cannot, this stuff is slippery slope, and we cannot give into this kind of speak, this hateful speak, and we cannot get into like dog whistles and all this signaling, because it's a slippery slope and it emboldens hate. And if you think history does not repeat itself, and if you think about something like World War II, the Holocaust, this stuff's less than 100 years ago in Germany. You guys, I've been to Germany. I mean, Germany is like an awesome place, It is a first world country. The horrors that humanity are capable of when they're scapegoating and misinformation, disinformation, and when people are not emboldened and they're not cared about is horrifying. And all of these modern 21st century comforts that we've come to know, are just that. They're comforts. They're not they're like privileges, and I see the amount of people that are willing. We're not entitled to them. You know what I mean? Like, so the amount of things that we're letting slip right now, and people I know, people like smart people I know, and many stupid, are willing to like cast aside and like throw away every lesson. I've never been more scared in my life, and I'm not like and that's what like this is like a talking point for the right, which is like, oh, like he's scared, like like you're everything's like fear, everyone's scared, they're so scared, they're flipping out. No, I'm not flipping out. I'm calm. I don't go around like looking around every corner,
grabbing people and shaking them.
No, it's not like that. No. As a matter of fact, I'm thinking about getting a gun. All right, let me tell you, it's the opposite. I'm looking to fucking fight. I'm getting jacked up. I'm lifting weights stronger than ever. No, I'm ready. I'm ready to go to get it down. I'm not being scared, but I'm just saying I'm facing the facts, which is like there's a level of accepted ignorance and accepted alternative facts. Put that in quotes. That's going on right now. That is dangerous. So I'm
really
you know what I mean? So
and like
we have a chance right now to put out I'm just saying we have a chance right now everyone right now has a chance right now to put out the fire,
100%.
temper the flames, and then we handle this with with a calmer hand. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the Joe Biden calm hand. And I mean, like, Mike says it all the time, like, no one saw Hitler coming. You know what I mean? Like, this is this is how things happen. Think horrible things that can ruin a whole nation happen. And people who turn a blind eye, look the other way, or just, support the leaders, they must know what they're doing,
Right.
are making a
And
mistake right now, because
you
this
you
is the
are
time you have to make yourself heard.
right, right, right. And people will say that we're going too far. That, all right, we'll lose you because, but regardless, fine. So we're going too far with this. All right, we're over exaggerating the hate and stuff like that. Even though you can look at the stats, okay. I bring this stuff up to Ross. My Chabad house at the university I went to, where I would go get dinners on Friday nights. There was
Same university that Joe Biden went to?
that's right, University of Delaware. Um, uh, 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 uh it was the victim of arson. 2 months ago, I just found out.
Yeah.
They so what I'm saying is, like, hate crimes are up in this country, and by the way, I say this to Ross a million times. I only bring up Jewish stuff a lot, like Jewish discrimination, because that is my experience. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And so is that like, oh, that's something I could relate to? So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and yeah, and so yeah, look, all right, I don't want to veer into that, but just in case that'll put some fuel on the fire. I'm not trying to do that. It's not my goal. But ultimately, what I'm saying here is, regardless of that, this presidency's been a failure. So even if that stuff has nothing to do with Trump, and it's like the coronavirus pandemic was the test of his presidency, and it's been a colossal failure, and there's no excuse for it.
Right. And he didn't have, there was no, like, his rebuttal to the coronavirus during the debate was, some hypothetical about an alternate universe where Joe Biden there would have been 2 million people. And also, like, turning it back on China and all of this stuff. It's like he had no good real answer for why things have gone the way that they have. And
no, it was an attack on
there's
Biden, who's
nothing.
not the president. And that was part of my frustration with Biden, which I don't get into with Ross, because I really want to, when I speak to Ross, I really focus on how you could support Trump, because that's the perspective I don't have. I have the perspective of what I'm disappointed by with Biden, because I felt like he kind of let him yell at Biden, which, by the way, it's really hard. And again, like we said, Joe Biden, he has a stutter. He has a speech impediment. So we know his brain, that means his brain moves faster than he's able to speak. Okay?
Yeah.
So, so that's right. So that's going to be, so if you have a guy yelling over him and not following the rules, all right, yeah, you're going to have the one up on him, because he's not going to be as loud and New Yorky as you are, or whatever. Fine. So, it is it is what it is. A lot of people don't know that. It's not like he's up there being like, I have an impediment. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
But the thing with Biden is frustrating, is that I just feel like did not say you're the president. Like there was mantras that you need to go against Trump, but I know, maybe because I know that kind of guy.
Right.
Although Biden's not that far off, but it's just being like, you're the president. What did I do? What do you mean? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
You're talking about 94? Does anyone care about 94 right now?
Right.
That I messed up in 94? You're messing up right now.
Right. And he clicked into it at some moments, but not right here. Like when he said, it is what it is because Donald Trump is who he is. And when he said, he said something, he's like, I'm not an elected official right now. Like, Donald Trump is the president. Like, this is not my job. Like,
yeah. And yeah, you're bringing up a great point, because when I watched the highlights back, I was like, oh, he said that? Like, you know what? And even stuff you're saying right now, I was like, oh, he did say that?
yeah.
And I'm like, oh yeah, because there was so much distraction in this debate. It was such a piece. It was a failure of a debate.
And the moderators, I read today, the moderators should have the ability to cut people's microphones when they're being disruptive during someone else's time. And on MSNBC, they said like there were 3 conversations going on. One of them was Trump and Chris Wallace arguing with the moderator. There was this Trump talking at Biden, and then there was Biden appealing to the American people. And
But Erin, the thing is that I agree but that all stems from Trump.
yes,
Like it all,
they
like
were
we
saying
need to
this was
call a
Trump's
spade a
problem.
spade. This is a
Yeah,
Trump. Now, this man has no control up there.
right.
And from every report you've heard about him, he has no control as the president either.
Right.
And from all the, and I brought this up to Ross in the last episode. If you hear it, just being like all these Republicans, classic Republicans, John Bolton, they all leave the White House and say General Mattis was like the most respected general. Like you're like what? Like even that he's like, yeah, well Mattis, well it's political. Well, you're like, do you have no allegiance to these guys? These are like your guys. These are like the fucking Bush guys. This is like, you know what I mean?
These should be your allies, but these are the people who leave, get fired, and then Joe Biden brought that up yesterday. Like, you're firing everyone. Like, and then
Right.
Trump's like, oh, he'll say like they messed up or whatever, but it's a mistake because a lot of the conservative voters who align more with these people who've been fired or have left the Trump administration are the people that the conservatives can align with that he's just gotten rid of. So
Right.
that's a bad play on his part.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so I just think like, look, I think town hall format Biden will do. I think he'll perform better because you could speak directly to the person. They have to find a way. They got to turn these mics off. I mean,
The moderator has to have the ability to shut off someone's microphone.
yeah, and I don't even. Chris Wallace is pretty good. I mean, there was really nothing he could do there. I mean,
there was nothing he could do, and I was actually impressed that Chris Wallace stepped up the way that he did, and he did ask questions that would be harmful to Trump to answer honestly. Like he didn't take it soft on him at all. But I do think that he wasn't quick enough in his trying to rein in Trump. I think he waited too long into the debate to really put his foot down, and that was a mistake.
All right. Well, I don't think you can control Trump. He does what he does, and
you gotta control his microphone.
And you know, the other thing that was frustrating is I was watching Fox News a little bit, and they were like, "Well, I wish Trump would have shut up because then Biden would have buried his own grave." And you're like, it's, you know, like he would have dug his own grave, and Aaron Ross says this to me also, and you're like, that's so. So now we're in the what didn't happen.
This is
like,
their whole thing.
This
That's
is how
Trump's
low the bar
thing.
is that like he would have blew it if Trump gave him the chance. Like, what the fuck are we talking about? How
The
stupid
bar
is this society?
So low. Like
He gets away with anything.
Yeah, because to focus on what actually happened would be like harmful to this person that they like bow down in front of. So instead they have to say, well, this didn't happen. It's all these hypotheticals, like you would have let 2 million people die, or he would have. Like, you guys.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we'll talk about these presidential debates as they're happening and as stuff breaks. I mean, it's going to be a crazy month.
Next up, we have a vice presidential debate on October 7th.
Right, which will be pretty. That'll be just pretty classic and good. That'll be like 1.0. It'll be fine. I talk about that a little bit with Ross. But, yeah, let's hear from Ross. Let's get into my interview with Ross. By the way, just to remind you guys, well, I say who Ross is. I reintroduce him. But we get introduced to Ross's views pre-debate on the last episode of Dan Black Attack Podcast. And remember, if you dig what you hear and spread it around, the best way to support this show is just word of mouth. Send this to someone. And the other thing is Ross and I, based on our combo here, we discuss healthcare and Canadian healthcare. So on next week's episode of the podcast, I'm going to bring in my friend Anosh, who's a dual American Canadian citizen, and he's going to tell us about going to Canada and what it's like to get healthcare. And let's hear about it. I have no agenda. I just want to hear. I feel like it's one of these things that is like the American, we don't even understand it. We just hear it's bad, it's good, it's bad, you gotta wait in line forever. Like, let's just hear it from someone who's been to both healthcare systems, you know?
I've been to a healthcare facility in London before, in an emergency room, so I have some experience.
All right, so we'll bring that up next week. We'll talk about every place that we've gotten drunk and fell down.
My friend had her foot stepped on in a bar.
Wow. That's crazy. Well, anyway, Aaron, we had our first debate. It was either.
Thank you, Dan.
It was what it was. And we'll get to those mailbag items next week. But everyone, enjoy my conversation with Trump supporter Ross Crimaldi. All right, I am back post presidential debate, the first presidential debate between Joe Biden and Donald J. Trump, the president. And I'm here with Ross Crimaldi. We spoke on the last episode of the Damn Black Attack podcast, which is the regular guy news via the Damn Black Attack podcast. And Ross is a listener of my wrestling podcast and is planning on voting for Trump on November 3rd, unless he's in Florida. So I believe he can vote early if he would like to. We'll find out. I'm hoping he does not. But Ross, welcome back to the pod. So yeah, I just wanted to follow up with you to see. We said it on the main episode, and I just wanted to follow up and say and ask and just see like how you felt about this debate. Ross, I'll just let you say what you're. Just go. How'd you feel about the debate last night?
So after the debate, I think it was CNN. A gentleman said this was a dumpster fire inside of a train wreck, and then one of the other anchors just straight up said it's a shit show.
Yeah, it was Jake Tapper said that, and then Dana Bash called it a shit show.
Which was, to be honest, the victory of the night was the fact that we can now say shit show on television. Right. It is now acceptable to say shit show on TV. Yeah, dude, it was painful to be right. blunt, not out like, wow.
And if you didn't hear the last episode, I just want to say Ross is a veteran. He was in the Air Force, is now in school on his GI Bill, and is a resident of Tampa, Florida. Yeah.
So yeah, it was tough to watch. Chris Wallace let it get away from himself a little bit as far as being the moderator. I had a discussion with my dad this morning when I was over hanging out with them with the pups.
And your dad is a pretty strong Trump supporter, right?
Yeah. And he was just like, I really wish Trump would have just kept his mouth shut, stop interrupting, and let Biden just kind of dig his own hole. Where, obviously...
which is what every Fox News commentator says.
Yeah. So, but at the same time, like... I think Biden too, like there were times when he was interrupting. It was like, dude, just can we let each other talk? Like, I feel like they should do the next debate via Zoom just so the moderator can mute,
right.
the guy that's not supposed to be talking. Like, it was just that brutal.
Right.
Obviously both sides, I mean, they both had some good one-liners.
Right.
But yeah, it was just tough to watch. And I feel like that debate, like a third of the people that are voting for Trump, they're still going to vote for Trump. The people that are voting for Biden are still voting for Biden. And then the other people are just like, what the hell just happened last night?
Right.
That's how
Which is a small percentage of people because unlike other elections, first off, I think these debates are happening later than normally. But
way later than normal.
Right. I think had to be just because the general election's already happening. So I know that. But,
yeah.
But so Ross, we because I'm putting this into the episode and I'm going to talk more loosely about the debate, but the perspective you have that I don't have that I want to get across in this podcast,
sure,
and why I do it is that you still will check the box for Trump based on last night, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And so nothing about his performance turned you off enough to change your vote or sway you the other way.
No, it was status quo for him. Like, we know what we got in this guy as far as the way he speaks, the way he's got that alpha male personality in the room, especially when I think I texted you maybe last night or early this morning, like, obviously we know what we were going to get out of Trump. And then Biden was just so like, it felt like he was wishy-washy on being the moderate liberal that he's kind of always been. And then pushing that like progressive side as well. Because obviously the base has shifted more left than he's ever been.
Right, and that seems to be the fear that everything I watch, because I put on Fox News more than most left-leaning people, just because I have to see it, and the narrative being pushed is like you will be unsafe if Biden comes in. The liberal left is going to push him so far left. The cities are going to be overrun. Crime is going to be running rampant in your cities, and blah blah blah. Right?
Which I don't believe. I mean, let's be like, it's not gonna be that extreme. Like it's not gonna just flip a switch the day Biden takes office. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, it's kind of BS in my mind. Like, it's
Oh yeah.
it's the most obvious fear tactics because they don't really have they don't actually have a great line of attack on Biden. He's, and so they kind of, it feels like they've kind of invented it.
Yeah,
in my mind. I mean, what are you seeing from Trump's message? Because that is a knock on Biden, and yeah, all right.
So I would say, like, obviously the left side, it's orange man bad,
Right.
and then from the right, it's Biden's got no clue what's going on. He's the Trojan horse. He's going to be a puppet for the squad, to the 4 congresswomen,
right?
Like, it's
AOC,
just
Ilhan Omar, yeah.
So the message is, coming out of the Trump side and the Republican side in general, is he's just going to let this guy let the rest of the party walk all over him, and
you feel that.
He didn't convince me.
Because he said, "I'm the Democratic Party." I'm just saying. I'm going off what he said. He said, "I'm the Democratic Party." He is trying to expand Obamacare, which keep private insurance, but he's they obviously have acknowledged that we talked about in another conversation that healthcare is not. Obamacare was not perfect at all, but it still allows private insurance to exist. It's just about adding that public option, right?
So I mean, that's obviously, that's the plan that, they've said and put out there. So,
right. So, okay. So here's my question. So for you is that I guess you were texting me a bunch of like memes and jokes and stuff during it. Now, I'm not calling you out that they're not funny. I see that, they are funny. Some of them are really funny. But I feel like I'm just trying to give you perspective for me where, like, to me, this thing is like not funny at all. It's like horrifying. And I say that to you from the perspective of like Trump's behavior. To me, I find it like abhorrent, and I find it to be like during that debate, I find it to be so counterproductive and unpresidential in the middle of a pandemic. Like, it's all deflecting away from these issues that are actually like affecting people. Now, I know you're not someone who, you're not like you said, you don't want to have kids and you don't have like a family and right now. So it doesn't affect you, but nothing about his behavior, like you're equating their two behaviors. There's like almost like in my mind, like this false equivalency of like they both were interrupting each other, but it was, let's be real. That was 99% Trump.
Yeah, it was more,
I would say
Trump,
99.
It was more Trump and Wallace than Biden, like doing the interrupting.
Right. So is that, do you feel like that's like that does that come off to you as like passionate and strong, or does it come off as like rude and bullying? Not to mention, like, we know Biden actually has a stutter, like that he's open about that. He has a speech impediment. So his brain moves faster than he can actually speak, right? So isn't that kind of just like weird bullying there?
I mean, so back in, like, we'll go back to 2016 as well with like the debates that we saw Trump in with the other Republicans. Well, no, just with Hillary, with with everybody, the entire field of between, I think, the 21 Democrats and then Hillary. So I mean, the guy beat 22 people to become president. But obviously there is that power side that the people are attracted to. But obviously, too,
I want to know about you.
I can.
Are you attracted to it? Because does it feel like? Because I asked you that question yesterday. I was like, is part of the attraction of Trump that it pisses people off? Like when you see a party that's like, oh, this is driving a guy like me mad. I know not me personally, but me, the version of me that you don't like, or
so
whatever.
Like, I'm definitely attracted to the the stern, like, here's the deal, here's how it is. But there were points where I was just like, dude, shut up, stop being a bully.
Right.
Like, he was on that line of, okay, on some of this stuff, like, he was making good, strong points and showing, the alpha male, I guess, type of person that he is. And then he was crossing the line too into being a bully. So there were times where it was like, okay, can we just let Joe talk? And then there were other times it was like, I felt that some of the interruptions were warranted.
Right. Like, because, I feel like I hate to be fall into the I feel like it's like we're all the losers here, but it is
everybody
pandemic,
lost.
right? We're in the middle, but isn't that Trump's fault? Like, I guess
That
that's not
everybody
what's.
lost.
No, that he didn't
Oh,
let us just hear 2 lines of policy. Like, there was times where they were talking about a topic, he jumps all around, and then if
yeah,
Biden is trying to lay out a clear strategy moment, Trump jumps in, brings up his son for no reason,
yeah.
and
Well,
tries to get under his skin, and it's like oh, that's part of the strategy. But we're wrestling fans, we know what he's
yeah.
doing there. But aren't you like, hey man, like we're walking around wearing fucking masks, we're all like
Hmm.
scared of each other. What's the plan here?
Yeah. Um, I mean, both sides, like the policy stuff, like it was empty from both. Like that's what I felt like it was, because
Okay.
the policy stuff from the Democrats has always felt these last 4 years it's just orange man bad. Like, here's some of our plans, but we don't really discuss policy. It's all about we have to get Trump out of office. Like, if like for me watching, whether it be Kamala or Elizabeth Warren or Buttigieg or the rest of the field, Bernie Sanders and obviously now Biden, it's just all been Trump bad. We need to be in office. We need the power so we can have our way again.
Right. So the
And
Trump
then
Trump
and
being
then
a
where
victim plays with you, like him playing
and
up
then
that he's a victim.
well, I mean, I wouldn't say as far as like him per se, like him telling me that he's a victim
Right.
it's more seeing how they've treated him the entire administration, where this guy, before he even raised his put his hand on the Bible and took his oath of office, they were saying they were going to impeach him. So it's like,
Right. So because what they were worried about was Russian interference in the election,
mhm.
which was proven to be true, and he's plays down. You know,
um, yeah, I
and
obviously
then
there were
hasn't
bots
and
and
then
this and that,
hasn't
but my
taken
point
any
on
steps
the
to protect the election from Russia since he's
I,
been in office. You know what I'm saying?
I just like the whole Russian thing, the whole interference in the election. I don't think they could. 63 million people voted for Trump, and I don't think that interference, maybe it got a few votes one way and a few votes the other,
Okay, cool.
but
So that brings me to my next topic because I see what you're saying because that was I'm really want to focus on the debate.
yeah.
So because I'm saying so right, you don't think that swayed the election. Well,
Yeah,
he went out
no.
there and he's saying there's mail-in ballots. He's already.
Mhm.
Does this not worry you that he's just um,
Well,
talking down the
we
legitimacy of this election because he
we
thinks he
could
might lose?
we could go for days about the mail-in ballot stuff. Like, it just, I don't know it.
I mean, I've always voted by mail. I mean, not always, but a lot of times I've voted by mail.
Yeah, but was
I
it a requested absentee or did they just mail it to you?
requested absentee, but also I mean, in
So,
California, it's not really that big of a difference. It's just a checkbox. Like you go into the system and you check,
uh-huh.
do you want a mail ballot or not? And you could set it as always get a mail ballot. Like, and also
Yeah.
we've been voting forever with mail. You know?
Well, yeah, but that's a thing that, you guys you're requesting it, like, and so like if you were to go to your polling station, they would have on record that, oh, hey, he's requested a mail-in ballot.
Okay, so here's my question. So here's what
So,
I'm saying is that he's
yeah.
saying, oh, the mail-in ballot, blah blah blah, but he's also defunded the USPS, right? So he's known this is going to be a
Well,
problem since
not
February.
necessarily him, because obviously the House of Representatives has the power of the purse.
Right, but he put in this one of his donors
Okay.
uh, to be what's his I don't know I forgot his name right
Postmaster General, is that?
to be the postmaster general, but I forget
Gotcha.
his name anyway. And he put him who was just a high donor,
Hmm.
um, and a lot of. It's reported that a lot of postal workers are saying that the policies now are slowing down the mail. They're removing boxes, they're removing machines. So
Okay.
they're
Well,
so I'm saying that in February, you have a pandemic, right?
yeah.
No, we're not going to have a vaccine. So isn't it his job to make this election as
I
smooth as
mean,
possible?
I would say it's Congress's job. I mean, obviously, as well as the president's, honestly, all three branches have a duty to the people to make sure that we have a free and fair election, whether it be the executive, legislative or judicial branch. I think
So, like I'm just saying, like you have no problem with the fact that he's like, it's going to be a disaster, but he takes no responsibility. I mean, it's like I'm the victim, but he has all this power. Why didn't you? You have this power. Why didn't you shore up this election? Why didn't you say I'm going to make sure you can all vote safely? I don't understand how that's.
Well,
You know what I'm saying? Like the
I
bar
definitely
is
see your point.
right.
The bar is low as far as the election stuff goes, but I feel like too. Obviously, we're 50 individual states that form a nation, and I feel like the states have a little more responsibility in this than people say that the federal government should have. So like obviously every state's doing things a little differently. So like you have like in whether it be in Florida or California or wherever in the union, the state election committee figures out the best way that they're
right.
going
But
to do
mail
it.
is federal, so shouldn't he say, "Oh, everyone's moving towards mail. Why don't we shore that up, or why don't we?" Why doesn't he get up there and encourage people to drop your? He's like, you know what? If I don't, he doesn't want the ballots in the mail. He should. All right, every American, bring your ballot to the polling place, or right, something that's a responsible way to protect Americans. That doesn't seem to be what he cares about.
Well,
in my mind.
Yeah, and you know what? Like that point you just said, if you don't want to vote in person, bring your mail to the, drop it off at the polling
No, he just
place.
says it's going to be a disaster. Watch.
Yeah,
It's going to be a disaster.
What I'm trying to say is,
right?
What I'm trying to say is if he did something like your idea, that'd be fantastic. But obviously he hasn't, and he's just playing the. So I feel like obviously,
but that's an example of something that keeps the temperature hot, right? That's the uncertainty.
Yeah, he should diffuse.
I feel like it should be, but I just want to get to my point because I'm saying like, not to interrupt you too much. I'm just saying like, because this is like kind of my thesis for you is like, that's the kind of stuff that it gets so partisan that like, don't you think this country needs to heal and join together? And it's like, why wouldn't you wish that he would just he's incapable of that?
I do wish he would diffuse the situation and have somebody in his administration who's got a brain as far as how this election should go. And like really say, okay, how do we need to what do we need to do on the side of the post office and on the side of the federal, election, whatever, and make this work the best way possible. So yes, I do wish you would step up and sit and do it instead of playing the victim card.
Okay.
Because like you can only go so far playing the victim. At some point you do have to step up, which again, he has stepped up on a lot of things, but there are also a lot of things where it's like, dude, do something. So
I mean, there have been but so instead of saying like, here's all the great things that I've done for this country, make that case and let's hear it. What he does is say, hey, Biden, you've been in office for 47 years and you've done nothing. You're not smart. You know what I mean? Like that. It's that you wouldn't like that behavior if someone was doing that to you. You know what I'm saying? Like if we were speaking like that right now, you know what I mean? So it's like, do we need someone with that kind of temperament in there? You know what I mean? So anyway, okay, let's move on to this.
Yeah,
I'm gonna play you this clip so we can talk about it because I want to know how this hit you. This moment hit you.
Okay.
And you know what this is.
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see peace.
Then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it. You want to call him? What do you want to call him? Give me a name. Give me a
White
name.
supremacists and
Would you like me to condemn?
Proud supremacists and
Proud Boys, stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left.
Okay, so I played the full clip for you because you know what I mean. I feel like this is what we don't need to just chop it here and that.
Yeah,
so
no.
What you hear there, and like, so you know where I stand on that. I think it was the lowest moment for him that I'd ever seen. So what did you hear?
I mean, the way I heard it was, Chris Wallace, obviously, like said, asked the question. And Donald is responding like, what do you want me to say? Like, what do you want me to call it? And previously, multiple times in actually that clip that I sent you just before we got on, he straight up has condemned these people.
Yes. Donald Trump has people. This is something important for people to know. And I've seen him do it live. He has condemned white supremacy in the most extreme words that you can. That is true. He has done that. The problem with Donald Trump is inconsistency of message, is that you get him all over the place, right? So one day and that goes to the masks. It's like, you want to wear it, fine. But then he makes fun of Biden for wearing a mask. And you're like, what? This is science, right? So he just says whatever. He doesn't stand for anything. That's what I think.
So
Yeah.
In the situation last night, you know, there were a few times where I felt like he was more battling Chris Wallace than he was Biden. So like he's flustered at that point saying, what do you want me to say? Like, I've condemned them in the past. I'll do it again. Stand by, stand down, whatever. And he's already on record multiple times doing it. It's just, I feel like,
Well, what does that mean though? If you hear, okay, so what I'm saying is,
well,
why is
stand
it
by
so
and stand
difficult?
down.
Well, I'm just saying,
don't-
why is it so difficult for this man to just say I condemn white supremacists when they're up there? Why is that? Is that
honestly,
hard for you? It's couldn't be easier.
no, not at all. Fuck them.
Right?
So
I know that you're not a white supremacist, but
So,
you're
like,
voting for someone
it's just-
who would struggles to say I denounce white supremacists regularly. He'll do it every once in a while.
I think like, so obviously heat of the moment last night, it was just one of those things where the temperature kept rising between all three participants, the moderator and, you know, and the president and the vice
Right,
president.
but he
So
knows it's a
just,
political win to denounce white supremacy.
oh, 100, oh yeah, 100%
It's
he
not
does.
even if we say it in terms of like votes, it would not. If he said, "I denounce white supremacists will still vote for him because they'll
Yeah.
think, oh, it's he has to say that, right?
Yeah,
And he
exactly.
still
Well, yeah.
can't do it.
Again, I don't know, the way I felt about it was like the way he said it, and then whatever, I was like, okay, I'm okay with that answer, just because he's so flustered right now with, and I know in the past he said it. Now, granted, should he have said, yes, I condemn it absolutely, you know, whatever, and put it straight up,
Right.
just like he said multiple times over again. But it was, I just feel like for both guys last night, they were getting so freaking frustrated with each other and with Wallace that it just, the conversation kept bouncing all over the place because of their levels of frustration.
Well, I thought the two of them were getting frustrated with him. Like it was for me, it was 100% from him. Like you're a wrestling guy, you know where
Yeah,
the
well,
source
yeah,
of
well-
that was coming from. Who
oh,
was
yeah,
the heel
well-
there? Who was the
Oh,
who was getting the heel heat?
100% Donald was getting that heel heat.
Right.
Like,
Which are
you know,
for that means the bad guy heat, right?
Yes,
Like who
yeah,
was
yeah.
the guy who, if the crowd was seeing it, they're like, this guy's here's the hero and here's the villain. Like
Yeah.
it would be his behavior. He's playing the heel card.
And,
Right.
and obviously the thing in politics is now we're looking at, you got, we'll just equate this to wrestling. Half the crowd thinks Trump's the baby face, and half the crowd thinks he's the heel, and then
Well, so
obviously
isn't
vice
that-
versa with
Isn't
Biden.
that the problem? Isn't that the problem for like?
Well, that's
so he
the
says. So
problem
what
with
I'm saying to you
everybody.
is that the problem is that hate is not something that happens overnight, right? He's not
No,
going to
it's
come
not.
out and wear a swastika. You know what I'm saying? That's
Yeah,
not what's going
no.
to happen. What happens is it's creep. It creeps up.
Yeah.
Like, and listen. If you look at, I always talk about anti-Semitism, not because that's
Mhm.
the only hate issue happening. It's because it actually applies to me, right? And we
Yep,
talked
it
about that
does.
yesterday. But like anti-Semitism is way, way up under Trump's administration. My
Now, is
Chabad
that,
house where I would
you
eat
think-
Friday nights dinner at my college was burnt
Mhm.
down by arson last month. Okay.
do you think that is a result of Trump being in office, or just kind of the political climate right now? Because like, I feel like as far as for,
Well, I think that's what you think, right? That's what you're saying.
Well,
You're
no,
saying
well,
that
I'm
it's
just-
not Trump's fault.
no, I'm
I'm asking you.
legitimately asking you, like, do you think, because I don't know the answer. I'm not Jewish, so I don't have that experience in my life.
I think it's a dog whistle. I think
Okay.
that his behavior is a dog whistle. If you Proud Boys, if you see right now, they're already using what he said yesterday as a
Mhm.
rallying cry, as support, and this stuff. It's
Now,
right. It's
the little bit
what
of
becomes okay. What
research-
becomes okay, and I think what happens, it's like it trickles down.
Mhm.
From the president. So I just think it's not. That to me, it horrifies me. This kind of what is okay that comes out of his mouth that people overlook. Like, you said your dad, he watched these debates last night. He had no problem with that white supremacy, like with him not being able to say that, or he did have a problem with it, but it's not enough to vote for Biden. Is that what it is? I'm not calling out your dad just because you said you just spoke to him. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think the context, like for the white supremacy thing, like I feel like most Trump voters would have taken it kind of the way I did.
Which is
Like, Just we know he's
stand back and stand by is what he said.
yeah.
White
I think
supremacists stand back
so.
and stand by.
I think
Stand by is like a rallying, right?
well, yeah. I want to say like, we
and then
all
also, by the way, I just want to point out that
between-
it's 12:35 for me the next
Yeah.
day, and they didn't come out first thing 9 a.m. today and say he didn't mean that. Like it wasn't.
Yeah.
He didn't make a statement. And maybe
I would say the stand by was probably a misspeak for stand down.
But isn't stand down what you say to troops, right? You're a veteran. Would you say stand down means, hey, I control you, stand down for now? Isn't that like what kind of speak is that? And then he had a second to correct it.
Yeah, well then obviously Wallace and Biden jumped in, but it was one of those things like, again, I feel like him being so frustrated. Obviously
Wait, did they?
But I'll tell you what, somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left.
No, he just pivoted to Antifa.
Oh, well, if you go back a little further when he's trying to say, what do you want me to stay, stand by, stand down, Wallace was trying to talk over him.
Stand back and stand by, but I'll tell you
Just-
what. I'll tell you
Just
what,
before that.
somebody's got to. Proud Boys, stand back and stand by, but I'll tell you what.
Yeah, so like I just feel like he was frustrated there, and obviously he wanted to make his pivot point to the left because they and two like didn't.
Well,
they
listen, I could see that point. I'm just saying, I see your point. Your point. I see what you're saying. You're saying like he already had his mindset. I want to go to Antifa now. He's like, I want to go to Antifa. So he just said something just to get there. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah, it was just a transition and not the
does
best
that make
words
it
that he. It's
not
the
a problem, I mean, like how much of this? If you look at Trump's like history of hate and racism, it goes for years.
Well,
Not to mention, do you ever see his dad was arrested at a KKK rally? Did you know that?
I did not know that about his dad.
Yeah.
But to if we're going to talk about his past as a racist, like I never really once growing up, like you never really heard Trump being called a racist until he started running for president. He's always employed minority people, minorities in his organization. He has a lot of women who are high up in his organization running stuff. He's that pop culture icon that you've heard his name in rap music multiple times prior to him starting to run for president. And heck, he's been in pictures with Al Sharpton and
I mean Hulk Hogan's in rap music all the time. I mean, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's just but
and Hulk Hogan is a racist,
Well, yeah, well, prior to that all coming out, those references were made, and then after that, I'm sure there's been references to him being a racist. But it's one of those things like.
So you don't think Donald Trump is a racist?
I don't think he's a racist at all. I really don't.
Right. So what do you think? He just is.
I just think
likes to be an ass. He likes to just push buttons.
He's a pompous asshole that likes to push people's buttons.
Right. Okay. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I just feel like, so let's say that's even the truth. Let's just assume that it's not what he is. But pouring gasoline on the fire of hate, there are people out there committing hate crimes, going into spiritual places and shooting up and this stuff. And then the fact that he can't condemn that, don't you think it's like, fine, if he's going to be this pompous asshole, then shouldn't that just be like on Howard Stern where it was funny? Like,
like a shock jock,
right? Wasn't it funny? But then does he need to be the president of the United States? We have a chance to switch it up to a guy who's, Biden. Biden's not going to. You know who Biden is.
Well, yeah, Biden's just going to stand in the middle and just be like, I have nothing to say here for the most part. Like,
right. I'm just saying, where's the line for you?
Flames. He's not going to put him out. I mean, I just like.
Is it because if he wore if he came out wearing a SWAT sticker, would you vote for Joe Biden?
I'd vote probably. I would just go with my Joe Jorgensen vote.
Which is, even though that's a vote for, that's a vote for Trump, right?
Not necessarily.
Like given our system?
I'd probably write in Mickey Mouse at that point, to be honest.
Right.
And we can get into the system. Maybe we can talk about that on another episode, as far as the college and the way we vote and this and that and the other thing. I don't want to dig too deep into that stuff but I don't know. Like now, obviously, if he's
Yeah.
that kind of a hateful person, where he's that racist and he's that this and that, I don't want him anywhere near the White House. I just don't think that he is, and I feel like he's a guy that, yeah, he's a pompous ass, but at the end of the day, I do think he has really good intentions. He's trying to do what's best for the people of this country, regardless of their
Right.
political affiliation. And like I said the other day, I think in his head, he's doing the best job that he can. And I mean, obviously, some of the
So, like,
things, like,
for political gain, we know that you think he's done the best job he can, but I don't think that's actually. Do you believe that he's done the best job that you could possibly do
no,
on
not
the
as a,
coronavirus? No, I'm
no,
talking about
not
the
at all.
coronavirus.
Oh, coronavirus, no. I don't. I think the only way that it would really would have been turned like completely around, whether it would have been Trump or Hillary in office, would be like, hey, we need to delegate everything that has to do with this virus. The people at the CDC are the people that, the best in the world, whether it be the CDC or academia. These people know what's going on. They're in charge. Do what they say.
Right. So
That's what.
we don't see
That's
them
what.
anymore. Like, we saw Dr. Fauci, we saw Dr. Birx in the
Mhm.
beginning. Then he took them down because it was making him look bad. Right.
Yeah.
So we don't see them anymore. And then he's literally messing with the CDC guidelines. He has this Dr. Scott Atlas, who's not at all qualified to be dealing with infectious
Well, yeah,
disease.
he's a surgeon or whatever, not an epidemiologist.
He's a radiologist, right? So I'm
Yeah.
saying, right, well, and what I'm saying is, people are dying from this thing. I mean, like,
Yeah.
should we not
Yeah.
be taking this seriously, right? Like, should we not have a federal response? I mean, you were in, like, the Air Force, right? I mean, like,
Mhm.
wouldn't you want to like, we have the Defense Production Act. Do you have?
I did.
Don't think we should
Wasn't it kind of enacted on some of the stuff like that
for ventilators? We made ventilators. We made
So, yeah, you
ventilators, but
had all
ventilators
the-
haven't been an issue since March. Like,
Yeah,
now we're going
no.
to be short on PPE again.
Yeah.
Especially on the West Coast.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, I'm just saying, like, don't you think we didn't even hear, because of the way he acted last night. We did not hear anything about testing.
We didn't hear
that's the whole thing. There's
anything.
no national testing strategy.
Well, we didn't hear really.
But, like, Ross, I just
from
want to say
either.
this. My
They were
mom is the
yeah.
principal. I'm sorry. My mom's the principal of a school. And
Okay.
she's back in school right now, and New York is spiking. My mom is 65 years old, okay?
Yep.
She doesn't know how to get tested. They have no access to testing for these kids and the kids. The kids
Now-
are special ed kids, so it's hard to get them under control.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to test them anyway.
Well, and also it's going to be hard to keep them keeping masks on, staying in their seat, like following in those proprotocols. They need special needs. Some of them need to be literally held down. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I get it.
So I worry about my mom every single day.
And that's
and she doesn't know if she can get a test.
Now, and she's living in New York, correct?
Right.
Okay, so they're on Long Island, I think, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's something, obviously the federal government needs to be purchasing and distributing the tests out to the states at the level of which they request them, or the state governing emergency management association, what the state version of FEMA should be doing the same. And then, so, like, for example, like, my sister lives in the city. She lives in Brooklyn.
Right.
She works in a restaurant. They just started indoor dining today.
Right.
She was telling me all the stuff, like, they have to, like, if a guest comes in to sit down and eat, they have to get their name, their phone number, their address, how many people live in their house, that kind of information from them.
To sit in a restaurant?
Yeah, to sit inside for contact tracing purposes.
Right.
Any person that comes into the restaurant. So if there's a party of 4, all 4 people have to give all of their personal information to the hostess at the hostess stand before they can be seated. And if they don't give the information, they can be turned away.
Right. So you think someone's going to do something with that information, or is it contact tracing? Because are you anti-contact tracing? Because it's like
no, I'm definitely not, because like we have it, like, at my school at UT, we have assigned seats when we go. We're not allowed to move seats around. Like, I mean, for the most part, I'm the person that sits in the same seat every time.
Right.
But they want, they want to know where everyone's at. They want to know like in what classes you interact with people. So I'm all for it. You know what? If
Right.
that's going to help people, like, oh, hey, if this guy was exposed, then you kind of branch it out, whatever. So when it comes to testing and stuff, you would think, and I'm pretty sure my sister's been tested up in New York. I know she got tested here. And here it's been pretty damn easy.
Right, but it only works if we have rapid testing. We're the richest country in the world. We have it. He's not been able to, in like 10 months, successfully have rapid testing sites.
Well, isn't the rapid test expensive as far as like compared to the 2-day?
I got it twice. It cost me $125 both times, and I have health insurance. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, but don't you think that as the richest country in the world, we should have access to fast testing already after 10 months?
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, and they need to figure out how to do it faster.
Is testing. It's all testing, testing.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and I'll give an example as far as like the testing stuff goes. Look at the National Hockey League. So I'm going to bring sports into this. I know you're not a sports guy.
No, I hate sports.
So from the end of June or the end of like the last couple of days of July until 2 days ago, the NHL had 2 separate bubbles, and every single player, every referee, every media person, every coach, everyone was literally tested every single day.
Right, like rich private organizations, can
Well,
afford.
and obviously
tests,
too. I mean, they were
keep the American population safe. You know what I'm saying?
They were up in Canada, so obviously it's a little different as far as their medical system goes than it is down here. But yeah, should there be more testing? Yes. Should it be more available? Yes. Like I've had to get tested.
He's not even showing any signs of that, and he's having rallies with thousands of people there with no masks. You know,
and
they all think it's fake. Like he said, "Oh, it's fake." First, he called it the China virus, right? Then he called it a hoax. This I'm just saying. I just don't understand how people can look past this. I'm asking you because you're First, he said, "Oh, this is a hoax. It's made up by the Democrats to get me on. It's gonna disappear, right? It's gonna disappear. You're gonna be sitting with your family at Easter. It's gonna be great, right?"
Yeah.
Then he started telling people to inject bleach, which was insane. Which I know. Oh, that was a joke. It was not a joke. You saw him. It's almost a cleaning. I've watched it a million times.
Yeah.
And then he said, he says, "Oh, we're gonna have it." Then now it's all 2 weeks. 2 weeks. 2 weeks. We're gonna have vaccine.
Yeah.
Not to mention, we don't even have a health care plan. We don't know. He's only done they had the House, the Senate. They had no just repeal or replace. They're fighting against Obamacare, which your mother's on Obamacare right now. I just don't understand what the actual plan of these people is. It's just you just want less government, but then we don't want any health care plan. So insurance companies just go nuts again, like
I think as far as like a healthcare plan goes, private insurance. Obviously, we're in a capitalist society, so private insurance should be the primary. I think the government should step in and try to cap prices, kind of like they've done with the Affordable Care Act.
Right.
But it shouldn't. It should be left to the private industry because I feel like when private industry does their thing, it becomes more efficient and more effective. But there does need to be some regulation as far as, hey, we need to figure out, how much to charge people because this shit's getting ridiculous. And then obviously too with healthcare, there's the disconnect between the hospitals and insurance where like if I go in for a surgery and I pay for it out of pocket, let's say it only costs 10 grand only. But if I pay for it with my insurance, the insurance company is going to bill my insurance company 100 grand and they might get 15 of it. So so there's that hyperinflation within the hospitals trying to get whatever money they can out of the insurance companies. My mom was supposed to have fusion surgery on her neck today. They still haven't even approved it. So the doctor that suggested that she's having this surgery has to go to the attorneys of the insurance company and explain to them why this
went through this also. It's crazy.
It's crazy to me that these insurance companies don't have doctors working for them that approve these surgeries.
Right. So socialist medicine. Have you ever seen? Because have you ever seen the? All right. Sorry. Go,
I was just going to say, as far as socialist medicine, I mean, I've been to Canada multiple times for hockey.
Yeah.
And I know plenty of people that live up there, and it's just one of those things. Like, you hear all those horror stories about it, and those stories a lot of them come from big lobby money. There's a guy who was the head of a private insurance company who is now a lobbyist against
health insurance companies.
Yeah.
I'll send you his info. I'll send it to you after this because I forget.
Yeah,
his
I'd
name.
love to see it.
And he says like, we put millions and millions of dollars into spreading that Canadian healthcare. Now, is bad. Anosh, right? Who is the producer of Cal
Yeah,
podcast?
of course.
Canadian dual American citizen.
Yeah.
Flies back to Canada to get doctor checkups done.
Well,
and his
now,
whole
doesn't he-
family lives in
now-
Canada, and they get great healthcare.
Doesn't he have to wait a long time, like plan it months out and this and that, or like if he got sick tomorrow, could he get on a plane?
He goes to all his dental stuff. He flies up and he gets on a plane.
Okay.
And not to mention Anosh, I don't think he'll be upset if I speak for this, but Anosh
Yeah.
actually has like some wealthy family members and stuff. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like here, but still flies to Canada.
That's
you know
funny.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
I mean,
so I'm listen. I'm saying we can't have this system where people can't get care because also it's proven it'll save us money.
Yeah. Oh, it does. I mean,
Preventative
in the
care.
long run, if we can have people on preventative care, that means we're going to be paying out less at their end of life with Medicaid and Medicare.
Right.
It's one of those things where I don't think with 350 million people living in this country, or 340, whatever it is, there's ever really going to be a true perfect solution, because if we want to go to a public option for let's say for everyone, our taxes are going to go up like freaking crazy, which you can see whether it be Canada, Denmark, some of those other countries, or if we have
let me tell you about Denmark,
where we have a public option
Yeah.
for, people that make under a certain amount, the other people are going to have their taxes go up. Like, there's no way to really have a perfect system. Do I think that people that are less fortunate than people like us need to be taken care of and helped? Yeah.
Right.
But at the same time, it's like, man, there's really no perfect solution, and especially with how we fight with each other now and the divide, it's never going to get done, even if there was a perfect solution.
No, absolutely, Russ. And I you're making a great point. We have a lot more people than Denmark.
Yeah.
I was in
and
Copenhagen and Canada. I was in Copenhagen in December, which is insane to think that I was able to travel at all last year. But I squeezed in this vacation last minute, booked it last minute. Smartest thing I ever did. I went on this random vacation.
Yeah.
I went to Copenhagen. Let me tell you, most expensive place I've ever been to in my life. Okay.
Yeah.
25%, 30, 50% taxes, right?
Mm-hmm.
But everyone there is, when I bring it up to them, I come with my American attitude, and I brought it up to everyone because that's what I do. Like, I can't even help. You know my personality. I go, taxes are so high here. Everyone is like, yeah, but look what you get. Every single person I spoke to, it was like, look what you get. They're like, yeah. And then you're like, oh, wow, this public transportation system, like, you get so much from it. And that's a socialist country. And you could do it because you have a small place. So what I'm saying is that, look, I'm not saying we need to. I'm just saying that as like, well, these people in Denmark, let's just not pretend that they're upset. They were very happy.
Yeah.
But also they also have a different mindset than the Americans. Because I met someone. Wait, I just want to say this. I met someone from Denmark this weekend, actually, randomly, at a party. Grew up in Copenhagen, and she was like, "Yeah, but the difference between Americans and people in Denmark is that they see more items as luxury." Right? So instead of us, we go out to eat for every meal, they know they're getting taxed higher, so they don't go out. So it's a different American culture. We're not going to shift that. So I agree with you. We have a massive problem culturally and size-wise. So right. I see that. So ultimately, we can agree. That's classic me and you, Republican versus Democrat 1.0. My thing to you is just that Trump is none of this, right?
Yeah.
And he's none of this, and also is so clearly inept. And his coronavirus response alone, he should be gone. And it appalls me that people are not like, hey, this is ridiculous. We got to get out of here. People are still like, he's killing it. I was like, I can't imagine how much he's failed and still gets people's votes on party lines. That's what shocks me. And for you, it's just
a lot of see, and to like, I feel like for me here in my local area around Tampa,
right?
Like, we kind of had a spike. Our local government did their thing, whether it be the city of Tampa or the Hillsborough County Commissioners. Wear a mask when you go into a business. DeSantis shut down bars and this and that. So like we didn't have the experience like places like California, New York, those heavy
Right.
population centers had. So like as far as the national response goes, kind of just off my radar, because I lived in this little bubble of Hillsborough County of, hey, here's what we're going to do. Everyone just kind of roll with it. And the local area came up with the best response for
Right.
what they wanted to do within it. So I think the overall federal response should have been, hey, here's our idea, here's what we want you to do, and then let the local governments figure out what's the best way to approach it for them. And I mean, obviously there's, more funding, more testing, more this from the federal side, but
Right.
now, you have that states versus federal, who should control this stuff. And obviously they're going to butt heads because you have your right-leaning states opening, you have your left-leaning states still closed, and then you have kind of like this wishy-washy in the middle with other places. And it's just the state response has a more direct influence on your life from day to day, where like there's the federal response, the state response, and then like for me the county response has really had the most influence on me. So overall federally, yes, there should have been more done,
Right.
but at the federal level, let's be honest, day to day, really, who's the president or who's in the House and the Senate and this and that, like my day-to-day life hasn't changed from Bush to now. Between Bush, Obama, like some of my costs in my life have changed, whether it be insurance or this and that, but like the day-to-day daily affecting my local government has more of an effect on me than anything else.
Totally agree. And like I said, I have a lot of problems with where I live in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
I have a lot of problems. I have problems with stuff going on in New York. Totally, I agree with that. But I don't think that your life is not affected, because I do think like because a lot of Trump's behavior here, I think that we could have had less deaths, and I think also we would have less hate with the guy. So that's that. Listen, I'm just trying to sum it up because we got
to get moving, and we can talk for days. And I do wish he was less divisive. I really wish he could just say, could have come out last night and said, you know what, we've been fighting for 4 years with each other. I'm going to stop this rhetoric. Here's what we got to do. We got to get back together as a country.
Right. Instead of
what can I do for you guys? What can I do for you as the left, where we can meet in the middle and figure out a solution to all of these problems? And let's not fight each other. Stop calling me a racist. I'll stop calling you guys this. Let's just unify and try to figure this crap out, because literally all 340 million of us are in this together.
Right, but his job is to be stronger than the way he acts. That's kind of my point to you, is that his job is to lead us through this thing, and what he's done has been divisive the entire time, and that is disqualifying.
Yeah,
in my mind. And to you, I guess it's not. And Biden's coming up there saying, "I'm going to be the president for all people." Yeah. It's like we're just trying to bring the temperature down. Just saying, Biden, you graduated lowest in your class.
Yeah,
it was so crazy.
That was playground bully bullcrap.
So where's the line? Like, that's okay. He could do that again if he does that at the next town hall. And if he starts,
I think he needs to stop with the the playground bullshit. But as long as it's not like so I referee hockey. I take a lot of stuff. Like I deal with a lot of people like that as a referee, whether it be coaches or players.
Yeah. I'll let you have the last word here, Ross.
As long as it doesn't get super personal. Like obviously Trump said some stuff about Biden's kids. Like he went after Hunter. If he would have went after Bo, that would have pissed me off, because you don't go after somebody whose son who's passed away.
Right.
So he said
go after Hunter, who had a drug problem. Especially when Trump's like, "Oh, I'm the opioid guy," right? I'm like, I'm here to help everyone with this. It's a big problem in this country.
I definitely didn't like that either.
Yeah. And also, it was brought up while he was discussing his son, who was for no reason. Oh, I don't know him, but I want to bring up your other shitty son. Is that okay? Mm-hmm. Like, imagine someone did that to you.
I definitely didn't like it. I did not like it. I thought it was low, and I tell you, I heard in Joe's voice how upset he got when he was saying Bo, like talking about Bo.
Right.
Because no father should have to bury their child, obviously.
Right.
So
His
it's
son
just
who
one of
was a
those things.
veteran and
Like
then died of brain
I
cancer.
I
Right?
I I did think that, there was a little. Did he cross the line? Yeah, but again, it wasn't one of those things. Like, to me, at the end of the day, I still, like, I just can't. For a guy that's been in DC for 47 years, the things, whether it be the crime bill that I brought up, the Clarence Thomas, the this, that, like, the guy, if we had a Democrat that was accomplished, that's done stuff, that's put through some bills, that's reached across the aisle, done both things, is a centrist, is willing to push aside
You're describing Biden, no?
no, he
He
hasn't
has
done
reached across
much.
the aisle a lot,
But
right?
what I'm saying
He's
is
done about
a guy that just
literally
over
Dennis, like
girl.
John Kasich, has come out to support him and said, "I know this quality's good."
Well,
Cindy
K6
McCain
and
came out and said that
K6 and Never
he's good
Trumper.
friends with John
McCain was a
McCain.
Never Trumper.
Right.
Like, I'm talking as like a Democrat candidate that was a little more stern, a little less wishy-washy,
Right.
a little more aggressive. Like, it just, to me, it just feels like
What if
Biden.
Kamala was running? Because I mean, I feel like she's pretty like that.
Well, she had her chance and she didn't win.
Right. But she didn't win
She was
because
in the
she's
field.
too left for. I feel like she's too left for someone like you. You have
Well,
this center guy.
she's too left for a lot of the people in the party, and that's why Biden ended up winning the nomination over her and the rest of the people. But I don't know. Again, I could go on for days and
Well, it just
hours
sounds like
about
you'll
this
make the
stuff.
same
So
excuse. I just, and I said I was gonna give you the last word, so I apologize.
yeah,
But like,
no,
it
you're
feels like
fine.
you'll give.
I give Trump
you
a
give the benefit of
pass.
the you
I
give
mean,
Trump like this benefit of the doubt
I
that you
do.
don't give to Biden. Yeah.
I just have to,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, I just don't like Biden.
Yeah.
Maybe I'd feel a little different about him if he wasn't the vice president in the Obama administration.
Right.
Let's say he was a senator the whole time and
Right.
Obama had a different vice president. I might feel differently.
Right.
But for a lot of people, and those of us that served and this and that, I'm not speaking for everybody. It's just one of those things. Like, I think the disdain from the Obama administration has left such a bad taste in everyone's mouth that it's just like, hey, he was part of that administration, F that guy. And I watched a video earlier today. The guy was like, Trump isn't the problem. He was the virus that came about, or the bad thing that came about from the problem. Does that make sense? Like,
sure, but he's been the virus also, because he started the birther movement. He wanted to, the Central Park was 5 or 3, 5.
Yeah, it was just one of those things.
They wanted
like,
them
he's a result.
executed.
Well, he was a result of the left and pushing everybody that far left, at least on the Republican side. Not necessarily, obviously not from the people on the left, because we get more and more divided, but he was just that guy that got voted in as a response to, because let's be honest, I don't think when he decided to run for president that he actually wanted to be president.
Right.
I think he was just trying to push his brand.
Right.
And then it was just like,
well, no, we know that for a fact. Do you believe?
Oh,
Michael
shit!
Cohen,
I actually won.
Michael Cohen was his attorney. Came out, wrote a book. Unless you don't believe Michael Cohen, but if you, which is fine. He's not like the most trustworthy guy in the world.
Yeah.
But said like it was all a publicity stunt.
Yeah. Well, and again, I've been saying that since he came down that escalator. I said to my dad, I said, A, you watch, he's gonna win, but B, the South Park did it perfectly, where Mr. Garrison ran, like they made him look like Trump and whatever, and it was just like, wait, I won.
You know he was going to win because you're a wrestling fan, and that's all it comes down to. And that's what worries me. What worries me is the wrestling. What worries me is that how we watch professional wrestling, which is dance fighting, and we love it, and we get actually emotionally invested in the storylines, even though it's scripted and it's theater. But it's parades as real life. And that is why that's the danger for me, is that yes, it feels like, even let's give him the benefit of the doubt, which he does not deserve at all. He just says stuff, whatever. He just says stuff. The ramifications of it are real. It emboldens people. Like I said, the creep of it. Look, I don't even know why this is the most elitist way to end this, and I shouldn't do it. But have you ever seen the movie Cabaret?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, I didn't see it till recently. My wife made me watch it. Guys who grow up in Long Island don't see the movie Cabaret. Okay, but in this movie, it's interesting because it's about this small theater in Berlin, and in the beginning of the movie, there's Nazis that show up and they kick them out and they make jokes during the show. It's a different show every night, and they make
Okay.
fun of Nazis throughout the show, you know? And they're like, yeah, they become a punchline. Last shot of that movie, there's Nazis in the crowd and people on stage are making jokes against Jews, right?
Hmm.
And it's the same exact theater, and you're like, I think that's more of like how this happens. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is and I don't, and I'm not using Jews to play any kind of victim
Nope.
card at all.
We
I'm
know.
using
I
because
get
it's
it.
personal, right?
Yep.
And not to ignore the plight of other people who are marginalized. But you know what I'm saying? I feel like this is how it goes: is that someone like a Trump starts opening these floodgates, and it's up to
Mhm.
us to stand up and say
To
it's not
stand
okay,
up and reel
even
it
if it
back
goes
in.
against some of your political beliefs. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not telling you can't be fiscally conservative. And what I'm going to say to you is that I feel like I learned my lesson from Trump also, like a demagogue, is that I've learned my lesson, which is that I can't stand if there's Republican 1.0s, you know what I mean? And there's a
Yeah.
Democrat who's outland, like radicalized, because I see some stuff that AOC and those people say
Mhm.
that I don't agree with, that I think is too far left. I'm gonna have an eye out for it. But what I ask
Yeah.
is for people like you, is what I'm asking for is to stand up against this kind of rhetoric
Yeah.
and put a
Well,
put a stop, put a stop to, like, we have to stop the bleeding. It's up
yeah.
to someone like
It's
you,
up
in my
to
opinion. You don't have to do it. I would love if you did, but it's up to someone
Mhm.
like you to be like, hey, this
Well,
is too far. This is too far. The bar
yeah.
is too low. Even though it pains me to vote the other way, it's the right thing
Mhm.
to do, which is what The Rock did, what John Kasich is doing. People who
Mhm.
are Republican voters who have a lot to gain. The Rock benefits from Trump's tax code, by
Yeah.
a lot. You know what I mean? Because he has big
Yep.
corporate money. You know.
Mhm.
And also he lost so much money coming out against Trump. If you look at all the comments from The Rock, it's Trump 2020. But he did it because he had to look at his family and be like, this is not okay.
Yeah.
He got COVID and was like,
Well, yeah, I get it, and I get what you're saying. Is the
yeah,
people in the middle, whether you have your right wing demagogue or your left wing demagogue, everyone in the middle needs to say, "Hey, no, this is not okay."
right.
Like, I get your point, and I really hope so. Regardless of the outcome of this election, obviously it's always a pendulum swing, left, right. I
Mhm.
feel like we're on wide pendulum swings right now, and I feel like 2024 is really when we're going to start coming back to the center. So whether it be end up being Biden that wins or Trump that wins, I feel like everyone's going to be like, okay, I would hope anyway, people see that, hey, we're extremely right,
I
extremely
think we
left. We
need
got to figure
change
this
now,
out.
man. I
Yeah.
think you should, and I think you should be part of it. But we'll follow up. I'm going to
Yeah,
follow
we
up here
will.
again against the next debates. I
And
want you to see after. I'm going to specifically commit to talking to you again after this town hall. My goal is to
when's
get you.
when's the town hall?
I actually don't know the date on that. We'll find out.
Okay.
But I think the vice presidential debate is first, which will
Okay.
be a wash. The vice presidential debate will be a wash.
Like, honestly, let's be honest, like, whatever.
That's going to be a wash. Those are two.
And
That's 1.0 candidates. You know what I mean?
yeah.
That's 1.0.
Well,
They're going to have an actual policy discussion.
oh, they
You know what I'm
will,
saying?
because Mike
And
Pence is an adult and Kamala Harris is an adult, and
absolutely.
they will be respectful towards each other.
Absolutely. And Mike Pence has some views that to me are lower than some of things. Like, there's comfort that Donald Trump, I know, is lying about some stuff. That stuff
Yeah.
that Mike Pence truly believes in
Well,
his soul. But I
a lot
still
of-
would sleep better at night with Mike Pence as the president.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep. Well, and we gotta, remember that a lot of Mike Pence's views are based in religion. So
That's what I'm saying.
he's a very religious man. There's nothing wrong with that. Whether it doesn't matter what religion you are. If that's just your view, hey, cool. Like, I do wish, the religion side would stay out of politics a little more, church and state separation, all that.
Yeah, well,
But-
even when people were more religious, they knew about the separation
Yeah.
of church and state.
Yep,
You know what I mean? Back in
exactly.
the day,
Yep.
we had less science. You know what I
Yep.
mean?
And more
we
religion, and we
knew to
still
keep
kept it apart.
separation. We still
Yep.
knew to do it. But now we're seeing not how to blend it.
So-
Anyway, Ross, I gotta go.
But yeah, we gotta
'cause
go.
we
We'll
gotta
end
go.
it.
But dude, thanks for coming back again. We said we are gonna do 30 minutes. We almost did an hour. I'm gonna recommit to talking about you. I would like you to, if you can, because there's a respect between us. Think about my words. Like, maybe
Yeah,
have
of
them impact
course.
you.
No, I will say that, Dan, they definitely have. I'm really enjoying these talks because it's nice that we can have a good constructive conversation without jumping down each other's throats and trying
No.
to kill each other.
Well, I'll say there have been people who are shocked. They're like, I've had some feedback from people being like, I don't know how you had that combo. We spoke for 2.5 hours. I think, again, and that goes back to the same thing, which is that I
We're
don't
more
think
alike
I'm not
than we
letting
are
this
different.
absolutely, and I will not let this guy divide us.
No,
You
not
know,
at
at
all.
the end of the day, you're a man who served in the military to protect my freedoms, just like my grandfather served in the military of this country. Like, you know, and I will not let him divide us. And as a matter of fact, my goal is to bring us together. Which is why I wanted to speak to you, especially because we have a common interest, which is
Dan Black,
my
2024.
my podcast, which is the most important thing that matters. 2024. Honestly, the only time I ever thought about getting politics, Donald Trump is the only. I never even considered it, but I see him and I'm like, I don't know, because I was watching this. I'm gonna say I'm probably gonna repeat this, by the way, because I'm gonna say my thing. But I watched when I was watching Biden last night. I was like, I would cream Trump up there. I would cream him.
Well,
because
you
we're
know
both
why?
New York guys.
Because
You know what I mean?
you'd go full baby face, he'd go full heel, and you'd be just cutting promos on each other. And that's, you know, at the end of the day, that's the
I know.
problem.
That's
Joe
the
Biden's not a
problem.
wrestler.
The problem is that I'm getting texts, and I get texts from people being like, "Wow, this is we're all like people are literally making popcorn." You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like that's not what this should be. So
No,
anyway,
not at all. It should be
Ross,
a presidential
I do have to
debate,
go.
not an episode of Raw.
Absolutely, Ross. Thanks for coming by. We're gonna check in with you again. Okay.
Yeah, of course.
Because I think we're making some headway here on. I'm not saying convincing you, but I'm just like we're connecting and we're seeing each other
Yeah.
in a way that I don't think a lot of people are doing. No one's frankly, no
And-
one's doing this. So anyway, Ross, thanks for coming by, and
Yep.
I'm gonna throw it back to the pod. Ross, peace, man.
Later, dude.
Thank you.